so many things about twin pregnancy that I didn't know, and I just presumed that it would be like a singleton pregnancy, but maybe I'd just be a bit bigger and I'd end up with two. I don't know, I didn't really think about it much before I got pregnant with twins. But when I got pregnant with twins, I decided to kind of like do some research. I don't know if it's always good to do research, but I decided to do some research to try and find out what are the next 9 months going to be like. The first thing that came to my mind was probably just that my belly's going to be bigger. But other than that, I didn't really have any other thoughts or expectations about what it might be like. So in today's video, I'm going to talk you through some of the things that they don't tell you about twin pregnancy. I'm in my 3rd trimester now. I should be giving birth very soon. So I wanted to do this just before my boys come. So the first thing, and the thing that affected me the most, I'd say, and the quickest, is morning sickness. Now, if you've been pregnant with a singleton, you'll know that morning sickness doesn't really mean morning sickness. Morning sickness just means anytime sickness. But with twin pregnancy, at least with my twin pregnancy, morning sickness meant 24 hours a day, non-stop sickness. That's what morning sickness meant. I was sick all of the time, all morning, all evening, all afternoon, even at night. I had morning sickness. I would wake up in the middle of the night feeling sick, not being able to get back to sleep just because I just feel so nauseous, wanting to vomit in the middle of the night for absolutely no reason at all. Nothing would really get rid of that feeling. I do explain some of my early 1st trimester symptoms if you want to check that out in my 1st trimester update. But basically, the morning sickness is crazy. It is all the time. So if you have never been pregnant, then I would say to just be prepared to feel unwell. I don't think people really talk about that enough. Like, pregnancy is not a sickness, no, but it can make you feel really sick. It can make you feel unwell. With my singleton pregnancy, I had morning sickness, but it went away by the time the 1st trimester was over. With my twin pregnancy, I had morning sickness up to probably about 17 weeks. And even now in my 3rd trimester, I still get waves of nausea. So just generally feeling unwell is something that I didn't expect, and not something that anybody said. Do you know what? I think that sometimes people feel a bit bad about saying that they feel sick or that they're feeling unwell. I think that the response from people when you tell them that you're having twins is always like so positive. People are always so happy, and I've had a lot of people say to me, oh, I wish I had twins and things like that. So I think sometimes it can feel as though you're being a bit unappreciative when you say that you're feeling unwell, and maybe that's why people don't say it that much. But I felt awful, I felt terrible, and of course it was really great news to find out that I was expecting twins, but I just felt like shit. All I read was by the 1st trimester your morning sickness should be over, and it wasn't for me. The next thing I think that nobody tells you is that you might feel sad. You might feel sad, you might find out that you're expecting twins and think, man, I was somebody who wanted to have twins, but not everybody wants to have twins. And I think that if you are a mum already, or if you've had experience raising a child, or even being pregnant, then you know that pregnancy and child rearing and childbearing is not easy. None of it's easy. Sometimes I think that when you find out that you're having twins, one of the first things that might come to your mind is like, how the hell am I going to do this? Because it's hard enough with one. I feel like as well, like you always have to give a disclaimer before you say anything negative. It's like, yes, of course they are a blessing and things like that, but logistically having twins is a lot of things. It's expensive, it's hard work, you need a lot of support, etc, etc. So if you're in a situation where you don't have all of those things, or you feel as though you don't have all of those things, it can feel not great. If you have those initial feelings, after you get over those feelings, you might actually just start feeling a bit sad because you feel sick. Well, at least I felt down. I felt really sad about that. I felt sad about feeling sick. I felt sad about feeling nauseous. I felt sad about vomiting. I just felt sad about having to be in bed. I felt sad about it, most of it, to be honest. In the beginning, you take your pregnancy test. It can be difficult to imagine what your babies will look like, and you know it's for something, but it can be quite unnerving, as I think it can be with like many other types of pregnancies. If you've experienced a pregnancy loss or things like that, it can be like a bit stressful to be pregnant. I think being in my third trimester now, kind of went from feeling sad about feeling unwell to feeling sad about being uncomfortable. You know, you get bigger, and I've experienced quite a lot of hip pain and back pain and things like that, and just having those constant feelings that you can't really find any relief from because you can't take many medications can make you feel sad. So I think if you are expecting twins and you're feeling sad, or if you want to have twins, then that is something to consider as well, that you might feel a bit sad, and it's okay. Don't feel bad for feeling sad. Don't get too down on yourself for feeling sad. I feel like it's a type of normal, and not everybody responds the same way to being pregnant. Not everybody responds the same way to expecting twins. So if you don't feel the way that you think you should feel, don't worry about that. There is actually no way you should feel. You're just gonna feel how you feel. The next thing that I didn't know about being pregnant with twins is that I'd need loads of help. I kind of knew that I'd need help when they came, because of course it's 2 babies. I've had 1 baby, so I know that double that is probably gonna require some help. But needing as much help as I've needed during pregnancy is something that surprised me. It's not something that happened before. In my pregnancy with my son, I was very active. I mean, I didn't feel 100% myself. It was a new thing, so everything that happened, I was kind of like, huh? What's that? What does this mean? What does that mean? Which I don't have as much now, but I just find it hard to do everything. I find it hard to do everything. And in the beginning, when I didn't have a big bump, I found it difficult to do things because I felt unwell. You know, I felt nauseous, dizzy, headaches, all of those kind of things. So I needed help then. And then when I kind of got a bit past that stage, I started to need help because physically I started to struggle. Things like standing up for a long period of time, I need help with. Bending over, I need help with. At this point, I kind of need help with putting on my shoes, picking up things off the floor. And in some ways, depending on your situation, you might just have to get on with it. There are some days where I just have to get on with it, you know. I just have to do what I have to do, but I just feel extremely exhausted after that. If I force myself to do things that I find uncomfortable, it takes all of the energy out of me. I'm always hot, I'm always uncomfortable. And so what help does during pregnancy is it really just allows you to relax. I remember leading up to my maternity, my last pregnancy, that I did kind of need like a footstool, because I worked in an office, so I needed a footstool. And none of my clothes really fit, but I didn't feel as lethargic and heavy as I do now. So extra help if you can. Get extra help in your early stages of twin pregnancy, or anticipate maybe needing extra help. I have my husband and of course like family and stuff to help me, but in some circumstances I don't really know what I would do without them. Sometimes just getting up for a drink is really hard work. The next thing that I didn't know about being pregnant with twins is that the approach to your pregnancy will vary depending on your healthcare provider. So I did research about having twins, giving birth to twins, labour and delivery and things like that, very early on. I'm based in the UK, I'm based in London, so a lot of the information that I was finding was US based information, which I know it varies from state to state, but I think that kind of affected what I expected. And even UK information, so stuff from maybe British mums online or NHS information about twin pregnancy, it's all a bit vague. And there were some women who scheduled their C-sections, and then there were other women who I've seen gave birth at home and things like that. So I think that there are general rules for twins. However, the variations in twin pregnancy are so wide that it really can just depend on the individual, which I think differs a bit from singleton pregnancies. With my singleton pregnancy, I found it very easy. I had a list of options of where I could give birth. I picked one and Of course, it depended on how the baby was doing and how far along, but maybe because my singleton pregnancy was quite straightforward, I just felt like I understood the flow of things and I could manage my expectations. But with twin pregnancy, how you are treated, whether you're under the care of a midwife, a specialist, both, whether you have to schedule a C-section, whether you have to give birth in an operating theatre, all of these things are just dependent on where you go and also the type of twins that you're having. So if you're having twins that share a placenta or don't share a placenta or have their own sacs or share a sac, all of these things can affect how early you have your twins, where you have your twins, and how you have your twins, which I found has affected my overall pregnancy experience. I think with a singleton, I felt like there were loads of things that were out of my hands, but I felt like I was probably in the majority, you know, in the majority of women who get pregnant and have a baby, right? But with twins or with multiples, I feel like I'm not in the majority, I'm in the minority, so it's difficult to know what to expect. And I have recently been given different types of advice from doctors. Some of it really comes down to what your doctor or your obstetrician is willing to and not willing to do, and who you get as an obstetrician, at least in the UK, unless you're private, is not something that you can pick. So it's kind of just down to whoever you get given and what they feel about twin pregnancy and how they feel comfortable delivering your babies. The next thing I didn't expect is I didn't expect to be similar in size to a singleton pregnancy. So I just presumed as soon as I got pregnant that I would just be double. I don't know why I presumed that, but I did. I just presumed I'd be double. So at 6 weeks with a singleton, I figured that I'd look like 12 weeks because there's 2. I'm guessing that's not how things work. I don't think that's how things work, but that's how I felt like things work. I felt like in the first trimester, okay, like everybody carries differently generally anyway, but I do remember that I didn't really start showing until 5 months. So I thought, okay, let me give myself until 3 months, maybe 12 weeks, and I must be showing by then, you know. I must, if there's 2, I must have like quite a large stomach, but that didn't happen. So now at almost 32 weeks, I don't feel super big, like in terms of my stomach. I feel heavy. I haven't weighed myself, but I'm sure I'm probably the heaviest I've ever been. I have no doubt in that, just because I can feel it when I'm moving around. But my bum, I'd say it is not as big as I expected it to be. And so, of course, not for all pregnancies, but I think for some pregnancies, you don't automatically look double. And I think that a lot of the sizing differences between twins and singleton pregnancies, I think shows a bit more towards the end. At the moment now, I feel like I could still pull off single pregnancy. I feel like my bump looks like there's one baby in there. What I have learned through it all though is that the female body is really amazing and it just adapts. So I would say probably even one of my concerns was like, how is my body going to cope with 2 babies? I know women's bodies do, but it's like that's a lot of human. There's 3 of me sitting here right now. Like that's a lot of human. So I always wondered like, how is my body gonna cope? But I think what my body's shown me is that it will just adapt. It will just adapt. She's smart. She knows what she's doing. I don't know, maybe I had more space in my last pregnancy than I thought I did. And there were actually a few little corners and crevices where another baby could have been. Because listen, I did research and put in Google twin pregnancy belly bump. It will show you beautiful bellies, but they are all very, very big. And I think that just set my expectations that by like 4 months pregnant, I'd have a belly that looked like the ladies that were on the internet, and that didn't happen to me. Now I'm quite far along in my pregnancy. I've realized that twin pregnancy bodies are like singleton pregnancy bodies. They all look different. So there's not one specific look for a twin pregnant belly or a twin pregnant body. Even postpartum, I'm not there yet, but I've been looking at postpartum videos for twin mums, and all the ladies' bodies and bellies look different. And so I think that it's important to kind of bear that in mind when you are pregnant with twins, or if you're thinking about trying for twins or trying for a baby even. My next thing that I didn't expect was that it can feel overwhelming. So this might kind of go in with it, with feeling sad. And it's overwhelming because of, I guess, what I explained about like the approach to your pregnancy, the healthcare providers will have, twin pregnancy or multiple pregnancy not being super common. For me, things like I really want to breastfeed, but I can't really find any classes, or there hasn't been. I think I found a paid one. You can find like private classes. The hospital hasn't suggested a class that talks about tandem feeding. And actually, a lot of the resources for twin pregnancy are on the other side of the paywall. So I haven't really found many free resources around twin pregnancy. Now coming towards the end of my third trimester, I have a lot of decisions to make about like how I want to give birth, where I want to give birth, how long I want to be pregnant for. If things start to pick up or things start to change, then a lot of those decisions will be taken from me, and I'll have to just do what needs to be done to keep us all safe. Also, things like shopping and all of that, I found it all quite overwhelming. That's not something I think I expected. I think seeing pregnant mums on social media, or even being pregnant before, I just felt like, oh, I'm going to be pregnant, I'm going to dress my bump up, you know, I'm going to be out and about, especially now that it's spring. I'm going to be out and about with my friends, you know, making memories, taking pictures. But even things like, I have a maternity photo shoot booked, I really don't want to do it. It just feels like something extra that's been added on to the thing, to all of the things that I need to think about. And that's probably, it might be a me problem, it might be just how I'm approaching things. But also I think it's important to remember that you have 3 heartbeats inside of you, and the hormonal changes with pregnancy just in general can really affect you. But with twins, it's like double. So there are some times where I'm like, I'm really being irrational here, and I'm probably overthinking things, making things feel worse than they actually are, and all that kind of stuff. But it's actually out of your control, which can also feel overwhelming. And I can definitely feel like I have company in me. I feel I can tell that there's a few things going on. And the next thing I don't think anybody tells you about twin pregnancy is that it's expensive. It's expensive. They say that having given birth or having a child is expensive, but trust me, it's expensive. It's really expensive. It's really expensive. You have to buy 2 of everything. Not so much in our case because we already have a child, we have some of the things already, but I think that some of the feelings of sadness maybe that some women feel or some families feel is the anticipation of the expense. Buying a twin pram, depending on what kind of pram you want, but can set you back by like £1,000 very extremely easily. And that's just for a pram. You have to buy cots cost maybe £300-400. And if you want 2, then you know we're getting close to £2,000 now. And then if you want them to have their own room and you want to decorate their own room, we're not doing that. But if that is something that you want to do, then you've got to put in the cost of that. And then things like double breast pumps are more expensive than single breast pumps. If you want to have any classes that are twin pregnancy focused, depending on where you are, then that's going to cost you money. 2 car seats is going to cost you money. So it is very expensive. And of course, expensive is relative, so it does depend on what you want to buy. Not everybody feels as though they need all the things that you might find on a list for pregnancy or twin pregnancy. I definitely think that money is something that's worth giving some thought to if you've just found out you're pregnant, or if you are hoping to have twins. It is something that I thought about and I think it comes from like home buying, because when you buy a home, they ask for how many dependents you have, and your dependents affect their perception of what you can afford. Having children just in general does affect your financial standing, I guess you could say it like that. Affect your financial standing. they are expensive and it will affect how much banks are willing to lend you and all of that kind of stuff. That's a different conversation, but they are expensive. And so before we try to get pregnant again, it is something that we discussed and tried to accommodate for. We have to earn more money if we're going to have more kids. That's the rule. But considering money, I think before you have any children, before you get pregnant at all, but definitely if you are already pregnant with twins or want to get pregnant with twins, I would suggest considering that it can cost a lot of money. Of course, some of these things might seem a bit negative, but I think that's partly why nobody tells anyone about them, because you don't want to seem like a negative Nancy when you're pregnant with twins, or pregnant at all, of course, because it's a blessing. I say everything I've said not to complain about twin pregnancy, or, you know, I understand it's worth. It's just things are what they are. And it's important to kind of make sure that you are being realistic, as realistic as you can. When you're considering growing your family, setting realistic expectations can really help. I hope you guys have found this video helpful. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I have noticed that there are a few twin mums, like older twins, who have been in my comments. So what would you guys raising twins say about things that nobody told you about raising twins? That would be quite interesting. Let me know down in the comments. And please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.